Well, why don't I make a start then? My name's Barry Black. I'm with the Mid-Florida chapter of SCORE, and Charlie Render is our presenter this evening. But before we turn it over to Charlie, I'd like to just do a couple of slides introducing SCORE for those who may not be familiar with SCORE. So we are a national nonprofit organization, volunteer-based, and our role is to try and help people who are looking to start or grow a small business. We do that primarily through free confidential mentoring to help you understand the issues that you should be thinking about and perhaps some solutions and directions to move you forward. We also provide a wide variety of business training through workshops or webinars like this evening's event. Most of ours are being done as webinars at the moment, but some get done in a classroom as well. Additionally, we have a lot of templates, tools, blogs that might be helpful to you. And we are a resource arm of the US Small Business Administration. SCORE actually has somewhere around 11,000 volunteers across the country. So it's highly likely that somewhere we have someone who knows the answer to your specific issue. If you go to our midflorida.score.org website, or if you go to any of our sister chapters websites, or even the national website for SCORE, they all have a similar look to them. There are three key areas up near the top. One is find a mentor. This is where you would click if you were looking to sign up for some free confidential mentoring. All you have to do is provide your name and contact information and perhaps some hints as to what area you're most interested in. The second button here is for getting a list of all of our upcoming workshops and webinars. And we have a lot, so I'm sure you can find something that's helpful to you. And the third button on the right here is to browse our library, and that's where you'd find various templates, tools, recorded webinars, and so on that might be helpful to you. Tonight, as I mentioned, our presenter is Charlie Render, and he's an expert actually in the area of business analytics. And he has his own company involved in this area. And I think without further ado, I want to turn it directly over to Charlie.
Thank you, Barry. I appreciate that little introduction there. Nice to meet you, everyone. So data analytics is a term that is a buzzword to a lot of people, and it's very intimidating to small business owners because you hear the term a lot and you don't know what it means. You know that it's high tech, you know big businesses are doing it, but it's sort of pie in the sky. It's sort of out of grasp. Today, the focus of our talk is going to be specifically on practically using data analytics for small and medium-sized businesses. No, highfalutin speak. It's going to be all very straightforward. So with that in mind, I'm going to share my screen here and get started. Let me get my PowerPoint rolling. All right, can we confirm that we can see my presentation here? Anybody?
Looks good, yes.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. So how data analytics can help your business is going to be kind of the focus of the topic for today. And again, if you have no background in data analytics, that's okay. We're going to cover a little bit about what data analytics is, the very first steps to get started. And then we're going to talk about very practical use cases that you can use for your small business, right? So it's very much, we're not going to talk about the theory of data analytics. We're going to talk about these are things that you can use to improve your business. So data analytics. Analytics in sports is made popular by the book and movie Moneyball, right? Many of you might hopefully have seen that movie. It's about Billy Beane, the general manager of the Oakland A's, which is a Major League Baseball team. And they decided to use data analytics because they couldn't keep up with the big market teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox. And they were losing. So they decided, what if we could use data to sort of get ahead? They ended up deciding to use a single metric, on-base percentage, which is just a metric within baseball. Using that one percentage, that one statistic, that one value, they went after players who were they view as undervalued based on that metric. As a result, that season that they end up using this metric, despite the fact that they had far lower cap space and whatnot, they end up breaking the 100-year record for win streak in the Major League Baseball, and they had a terrific run. And only 2 years later, the Boston Red Sox used the same method, win their first World Series in 2004 since the 1918 World Series. So data analytics has sort of already taken over the sports world. It's already taken over the business world. And it's an opportunity that anyone could use, and it's about practically getting solutions. It's not just for the sake of saying, oh, I'm working in data. It's about getting it done. So just some quick background about me. I am the owner and lead consultant of Render Analytics. We are a data analytics agency. We help small, medium-sized businesses and large businesses. We work with some businesses like Marriott Hotels, Blue Cross Blue Shield, to leverage their data, get the most out of their business and to optimize their business, optimize profitability, overall get more sales, retire younger. I'm also the co-founder of a startup called Analytics Box that specifically uses data analytics to help people improve their websites. And we can talk a little bit about that later. And if you ever do want to reach out to me, you see my email there. Been doing this for quite a long time now. And I really have a background within helping small businesses. So this is all stuff that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to kind of break out this presentation into 3 sections. It'll kind of build on one another. So first off, we'll talk about just what is business analytics, in simple terms, what does it mean? Then we'll talk about getting started. Before we even start to worry about the analysis, what do you need to do first? What are the prerequisites? And then last but not least, we'll talk about analysis in action. What are some actual data analytics practices that you can take as a small business owner that will actually help your business in a meaningful, measurable way? So first off, what is business analytics? I'll give you guys a minute to think about what that is. But okay, so business analytics is a term within the field data analytics, right? So data analytics is just the statistical analysis of raw data in order to make conclusions about that information. Okay, that sounds pretty technical and boring. What does that really mean? It really means that there's so much information out there that we don't take advantage of, right? Every hand you shake as a business owner, every customer you interact with, every product you sell has so much information about it. And rather than just kind of skim the surface level, make observations and make business decisions from an intuitive sense, business analytics is just saying, let's apply statistics to a lot of this. Let's look at all this information that we're collecting, knowingly, unknowingly, passively, actively, and let's just see if we can make better business decisions based on these aggregate trends that we can identify from our own data or from the data from the larger marketplace. So how can analytics help businesses? There's sort of 4 main categories that I'm going to point out here. The first is making better predictions about the future. So just an example for that. So we're all familiar with Amazon, the company. So Amazon, if you've ever noticed, they're getting faster and faster at delivering the goods that you're buying online to your door. So Amazon's doing that through what they call their anticipatory shipping program. And basically what they're doing is they've got a predictive model in place that they predict what you're going to buy before you buy it. And how does that help them? They can end up moving products to the nearest shipping hub that's near your location. So when you actually order it, it costs them less to get it to you quickly. So how do they do it? Well, they're analyzing things like your order frequency, your cart contents, your search history, prior purchases, things like that. And they basically feel that they can predict what you're going to purchase based on those factors. And the result, you can enjoy the benefit of having faster shipping times at a lower cost. So from Amazon's perspective, that's increasing brand loyalty. How many of us have enjoyed the convenience of getting our Amazon goods shipped within one day? Amazon may have many problems as an organization, but they certainly use data in an effective way. Identifying causes of events or outcomes. So another example of this, I used to work for a company long ago called Shutterstock. They do image licensing online, right? And Shutterstock basically is a competitor of Getty, if you're not familiar with them. And one day when I was working there, Shutterstock, all of a sudden their conversion rate on their website started crashing and they didn't know what was happening. Just, they were not getting enough sales. Things were just tanking out of nowhere. And they're panicking. What's going on? What's going on? Using data analytics, we were able to identify a specific reason why the website conversion started dropping. As it turns out, someone had an extra page to the checkout flow. So, when you're adding your cart, you're doing your checkout, so on, someone added an extra page with a little bit more information, and that was enough to totally tank the conversion rate. We removed that page, we reverted to the old version, and all of a sudden, website sales went back up again. So there you go, being able to identify the cause or of event or outcome. Isolating variables to identify customer or business needs. So I don't know about you guys, but when I listen to my music, I like to use Spotify, which is a popular music tool. So Spotify, if you are a Spotify user, you might notice that they'll send you a personalized playlist every week of songs that you've never listened to, at least not on Spotify, based on your other songs that you do listen to, just as recommended music. They basically say, okay, we recommend these new songs for you. We think that you'll like it based on these other songs that you do listen to, or podcasts, or wherever it is. And if you ever listen to these recommended playlists, they're actually pretty good. They're pretty accurate at determining what your taste is, even for songs that you've never heard of. And then last but not least, getting insights on factors affecting your industry or marketplace. So data analytics doesn't have to only involve data that's being collected within your business, right? Sometimes there's industry level data, data of competitors, things like that, that you can also leverage. So you can understand industry level trends. You can understand trends that are happening outside the scale of your own individual business. And just to give a quick example of that here, there's a free tool out there called Google Trends. And I've got it here pulled up for you guys. Hopefully you can see it. And Google Trends is essentially a tool where you can put in any Google term and it'll tell you the popularity of that term. So if I put in home improvement, for example, I can see the trend over time for that term. So let's just look at it past 5 years, for example. And look at that. Isn't that interesting? There was a huge spike in home improvement terms, especially right as COVID hit. People were home a lot more and they decided that they wanted to go ahead and stick with that, work at home and do what they can because they're stuck at home anyway. And you can see it kind of went back to planet Earth a little bit until around when COVID really started to drop off in mid 2021 and went back to normal. So if you're working home improvement, that might be some valuable information for you. Let's just, for the sake of fun, do one more term. Does anyone have a suggestion in the chat box? Happy to take suggestions here. Nope. Oops. I don't know if I get this out of my way here. Rugby. Okay, rugby's a good term. Let's look it up. So isn't that interesting? So I'm gonna guess, I don't know much about rugby, I'll be honest with you, but I'm gonna guess that some big rugby event was happening in 2019 around September and October, and something else must have happened in July 2021. So you can see rugby's popularity really is seasonal. I'll do one more here. I see someone did nuclear war. That's a little violent, but why not? So February 27th to March 5th, 2022, huge spike in searches for Google for nuclear war. Now, that may be interesting for the sake of business purposes. Maybe that's not the most applicable thing in the world, but nonetheless, this data is out there for the public, right? Think about your own industry. Go on Google Trends, see what people are searching for, see what the trends are. Or if your work in insurance, what are the trends for terms within the insurance industry online? So there's so much information out there that you can leverage. So just gonna hop back here to the presentation. And so that's just kind of basic high level definition of data analytics and business analytics, right? And there are so many kinds of data that you as a business owner can leverage. Lead and opportunity data. So lists of potential customers that you can have. What information can you collect about them? Can you collect information about where that lead came from? Can you collect information about when you got that lead? Can you collect information about, demographic information about that lead? What's their age? What's their gender? What's their, household income? If it's B2B, what industry are they in? So many factors that you can consider when it comes to leads and opportunities. All of these are data points that you can collect about each lead you have. Customers, name, address, zip code, past purchasing behavior, total lifetime spend, last time that they purchased from you, first time that they purchased from you, purchasing patterns, all these different information you can collect about your customers. Transactions, transaction date, what product was purchased, who is the customer, where is it being purchased from, and who's it getting shipped to if it's not all in person. So much that you can collect within transactions. And within transact, all right. So then we have interactions here. Interactions mean so many different things. Customers, interactions with investors, employees, media. These are all data points. Interactions on your website. Anytime someone sees your social media post or your website, that's an interaction. That's someone who actually interacted with your business. And there's so much information that can be collected about that interaction. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they collect so much for you. They collect information about which posts are liked, what hashtags are working, likes, comments, website visits. All this data can be collected from social media. Products, SKU number, product size, dimension, weight, color, price, all data points about your products. Employees, what skills do they have? What's their salary? What do you have? Performance management data from their own manager? When did you hire them? Think questions like that. Supply chain and processes, so customer support data, inventory tracking, transportation and distribution data, order fulfillment data. That's all information about your supply chain. Partners and vendors, building on that, if you have partners and vendors who are providing part of their services to you, a lot of that supply chain data can carry over. And last but not least, market and industry data, competitor pricing, market size, market share, Google searches for things in your industry, just like we looked at. So these are all sorts of data that your business could be collecting for potentially free, but at the very most cheap, right? So this is all data that your business can be accessing that can help you make better business decisions. And why do you make better business decisions? To make more money, to be more profitable, to spend your time more effectively. So before we get into different types of analyses and how we can use this data, I just kind of want to quickly cover 3 main points that are sort of not said enough within the field of data analytics. I just want to make sure it's really clear. First is business analytics investment is about results, right? I kind of alluded to this earlier. We're not just doing this for fun. You're not just doing it because it's the buzziest thing to do. The reason to invest in business analytics is to increase profit and increase sales for whatever your ultimate end goal is, right? That's why you're doing it. You're doing it because you feel like the data itself can help inform decisions that will grow your business in a positive way. Higher investment does not mean better return on investment. So certainly it can mean that, right? But just throwing money at data analytics without being strategic in the way that you're spending that money and strategic in the way that you're investing your time and resources can become a money pit if you're not careful. Data analytics can be a trap if you're not asking the right questions or using the right use cases. If you're just exploring numbers for the sake of your interest, you might be throwing a lot of money or just time away that you could otherwise be spending more effectively. So higher investment doesn't necessarily mean better return on investment. It's about how you're spending your money, how you're spending your time. And I should say results don't always come overnight. There's of course some times where things happen where the data gives you really effective wins, like the Shutterstock example from earlier, but it's an investment in strong, solid decision-making. In a nutshell, that's what data analytics is all about. It's about increasing decision-making, increasing the power of decision-making, and making better decisions about pricing, better decisions about marketing, better decisions about customer acquisition, better decisions about hiring the right employees, better decisions about your products and what you're selling. It's ultimately all about that. And sometimes it takes time for those better decisions to pay off for you. So this is the fun part. That's kind of the homework, right? We got through the part where we talk about the background of what data analytics is, why we do it, some possible success stories there from the bigger businesses. But this is where we'll actually kind of get into the fun stuff here. So data analytics can be split into 3 main categories: descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. And it's in the name what each of those means, right? Descriptive analytics means you're describing your business, right? What information can you use about your past to understand your past in more clear terms, right? What's happening? What trends are arising within your business? What has been the impact of the decisions that you've made, right? Descriptive is just describing what's already happened. Now, predictive analytics takes the next step forward, right? Which is, okay, based on how I understand the past, can I accurately predict the future? And we're going to talk a lot about what use cases of how that would be helpful, but generally understanding the future, especially if you have certain decisions, what the impact of that will be on your future, then you're going to make the right decisions because you'll know what the future entails based on each potential decision being made. Prescriptive analytics builds in on that and says, okay, based on what we know about the past and what we feel confident in saying will be the future, what actions can we take to control our own fate, right? what course of action can we impose that will essentially put us in a position to succeed? And you might be hearing me say these three things: descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, prescriptive analytics. And you might notice that they kind of build on top of one another. And you would be correct. You can't have prescriptive analytics without being able to have predictive analytics. And you can't have predictive analytics without having descriptive analytics. You basically need to understand what's happening to have a good grasp of the future in order to be able to actually make actions for the future that will put you in a position to succeed. You need to understand what the impact of those actions will have. So it is sort of an uphill slant here. Now let's think about for a minute, as you're a small business owner, presumably if you're watching this, or maybe you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're a business decision maker. Okay, descriptive, predictive, prescriptive. What does this mean? It's just terms. Let's think in real simple terms if we're as a small business here, right? Let's just think of an example. So descriptive analytics. For small businesses, descriptive analytics can be really, really basic, right? Think about building your first reporting dashboard. Think about just tracking the numbers of your business. Think about just, okay, these are my goals. Like I want more sales, I want more customers, whatever it is. Let's just start tracking that. Let's just start collecting the data needed that I actually understand my own numbers. You know, it's funny because that might sound intuitive or obvious, but so many small business owners or small business in general, nonprofits, whoever it is, they just don't take the first step of just collecting the information. And like I said, often this information is free or very cheap to collect. So start basic, just start collecting your numbers, start reporting on them. Maybe build some charts and graphs that make it really easy for you to understand in the form of a dashboard. I always say that customer related data is a good place to start because it's a really easy way to understand profitability, right? If you are better about acquiring customers, keeping customers, getting more money out of customers, you're going to be more profitable. So it's always an easy, good place to start because there's so much customer data out there. Digital marketing tools, for example, if you're investing in Google Ads or Google Analytics, or maybe you're investing in Facebook or Instagram or any other platform, digital marketing channels are a really good way to start because they just hand you all this data for free, right? And we'll get into some examples of that in a moment. Website data is uniquely equipped to collect data that can provide useful insights. Think about everything that's happening on your website. Every visitor, where are they coming from? You know, how do they find your website? What are they doing when they get on the website? Where are they clicking? You know, what is their funnel to entering the website to actually making a purchase? You know, that's data that's actually free and available to you. Are you collecting it? Are you looking at it? Are you making changes based on what you're looking at? So again, descriptive analytics can start so basic. Just start collecting the numbers, consolidating the numbers, understanding the numbers. You don't have to overthink it. Just start collecting information. And we'll get into a couple of examples in a moment. Predictive then. So based on the information we know, can we predict the future, right? So using that same example of using customer related data, can you predict how many website visitors you'll have in the future? Is that useful information? I think it is. If I can predict how many website visitors I'll have in the future, I can basically estimate what my sales from my online channels will be. Can I predict what my future conversion rate will be? Or my average order value, how much an average customer spends on my product or service? So if I'm a barber, can I predict how much the average customer is going to spend on me? Can I predict what percentage of people who see me online end up going to my barbershop, right? Just predicting the future, understanding it. So this type of information can make informed business decisions, which leads to prescriptive analytics. So within this kind of example project here, the customer funnel, you can start identifying opportunities to improve these long-term metrics that we're talking, right? If we're talking about website visits, sales, new customers, whatever it is, if I can understand the trends and where my customers are coming from now, and I understand what's happening now, and I can have a reasonable expectation of predicting the future, I can make decisions that will benefit my future. So using the example, identifying opportunities of what can be toggled to improve your customer acquisition, right? On Google Ads, what can I do to tweak my Google Ads to get more sales? Or Facebook ads, wherever it is. On my website, what changes can I make on my website to get a larger percentage of my website visitors to actually reach out to me and set up an appointment or buy my product or whatever it is that I'm selling? On social media, what can I do on my social media to get more followers more quickly, or to get more interactions in every one of my social media posts? Email and SMS marketing, how can I get higher open rates? How can I get higher, conversion rates from these sources, right? If I understand what's driving the little factors that go into driving each of these things, I can control those factors in my favor. Now, this is all kind of theoretical here. So let's get into some real basic examples, right? So first off, let's talk about descriptive analytics. First off, I see someone commented, all right. All right, so descriptive analytics, right? The first step, like I mentioned, is data collection, then reporting, and then trend and pattern detection. This is the route I recommend for any small business owner to start in data analytics. Start with data collection, move to basic reporting, and then start recognizing patterns and trends. So data collection, we kind of already talked about this, but these are all data sources that are free or very cheap to use. Your online data. If you have a Facebook page, you have an Instagram page, a Twitter page, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, they are giving you all of this data for free. Not only that, they'll let you export it and put it into other tools for free. If you're on Facebook, they'll tell you exactly how many views each post has. They'll tell you exactly how your ads are doing, whatever it is. It's all free data. If you're already doing email and SMS marketing, by SMS, I mean text message marketing, for anyone who's not clear with that term. They are giving you data about each one of your emails, the open rate, the click-through rate, and they'll give you information. Where are they coming from? What's the geography of your emails? What's the geography? Like, where are people actually located where your text messages are going? Is the demographic data? Is it are males or females more likely to open your text messages? That's valuable information. If I'm selling a product and people over the age of 50 are 10 times more likely to open my text message, I'm just going to focus on my 50+ crowd, right? Website data. Google Analytics is a free tool that you can put on your website, and you can collect every piece of information you could possibly ever imagine on your website. Google Analytics is a free tool. There's another competitor out there, Adobe Analytics. Those are the two big ones. And then paid digital marketing, whether it's, through Yelp or Google or Facebook or whatever channel you're investing in your paid digital marketing efforts in, they're giving you all the data. These are everything I just listed here is totally and completely free. Totally and completely free. My recommendation is, if you're collecting this data, to try to put it all in one place, put it in a warehouse, put it somewhere where you can put all of your data together, have a reporting dashboard, and you can look at all of your numbers together and really understand your business. For customer data, if you have a payment system, right? Let's say they're paying online, maybe you use PayPal, maybe you use Stripe, maybe you use Shopify, something like that. There's so much data being collected there about your customers and what they're purchasing and what their purchasing patterns are. I mean, you got to be leveraging that. There's so much valuable information there. A lot of people use Salesforce. Salesforce is not a free tool, obviously, but if you are using Salesforce, it's essentially meant for marketing, sales, that kind of thing. And I mean, as if you use Salesforce, there's so many reports out there that are available to you. Survey data is another form of customer data. So if you're after a purchase or after a point of contact with your customer, if you're surveying them and they'll fill out your survey, 1 to 5, how was your service? There can be a lot of really valuable information from surveys. They're becoming increasingly popular among some of the larger corporations. Blue Cross Blue Shield loves surveys, for example. They use surveys to make so many different decisions because it's the customer telling you directly. Surveys are all about the customer directly telling you how they feel. Employee data. So, HR software, if you're using it, internal work management systems, maybe use Jira or something like that. That's data about your employees. You can understand how effective your employees are, who are your best employees, who are your worst employees, what characteristics can you use to identify a good employee so you can hire good employees in the future. That's it. That's the kind of data that you can get of employee data. And of course, industry data, Google Trends, which we already looked at, Nielsen, Statista. These are, tools out there that sometimes cost money, but Google Trends is free. Statista gives out a lot of stuff for free. So you can get trends that are not just about your business individually, but about your actual industry as a whole. So these are all tools that you're either using them already and it's free, or because you're paying for the tool already, or it's just free automatically. This is all data you can be collecting for free. So what do you do with that data, right? I keep talking about collecting data, but how do you actually make decisions based off of that? Now, the way that I suggest you start is by building a basic reporting dashboard. A dashboard is basically just a series of charts and graphs that puts all of your numbers that might just look ugly in a spreadsheet and puts them in a way that's easily digestible. So you, as a non-technical person, as a non-technical business decision maker, can quickly understand data, in an intuitive way, despite the fact that you're not necessarily a numbers guy or numbers girl. And I'm going to show 2 example dashboards here. The first is from a tool called Tableau. I'm going to show you two different dashboarding tools out there in the market. Tableau is the biggest. Tableau is owned by Salesforce, and Tableau basically helps you build charts and graphs. Oops, what happened here? Charts and graphs that can allow you to get a lot of it, play around with the data yourself as a non-technical business owner, and essentially, identify trends you wouldn't have otherwise identified in an Excel spreadsheet, right? So this example is a dashboard in Tableau of shipping KPIs, right? So this business is obviously shipping items, and this is graphing out here delays over time, shipping delays, and you can see they have each individual point here is an individual shipment with a shipping number, and it tells you the shipping delay, so you can see kind of generally the distribution of your shipments and see how many are slow, how many are fast, how many are being delayed. And what's cool thing about dashboards is they're often easily interactable. So you can click on one part of a dashboard and and then you can zoom in on it and get more information about that, right? Dashboards are meant to be interactive. They're meant to be able to look at one piece of information and zoom in on that. This particular dashboard has two views. The cool thing about this one is you can look for a particular shipping ID, 9545, for example. And you can get data just for that one shipping ID. Another example, this is another tool called Google Data Studio. Tableau is actually cost money for the most part. Google Data Studio is totally free. They actually just changed the name to Looker Studio recently, but that's like as of this week. And this one is of a website data, right? You can see here, you can change the date range if you'd like, and be interactive with it. You can see all these different charts and graphs that tell the story of your website. Oh, I got 90,000 website sessions in the last month, 530,000 page views, which tells me the average website visitor is visiting over 5 pages on my website, right? That seems like a pretty interactive website visit. I can see trends over time, so I can see what happened in September there. I can see geographic data. I can see where my traffic is coming from, direct, paid. And I can interact with one piece and say, okay, where's just my paid traffic coming from? And the rest of the charts will automatically update based on those needs. So dashboards is a really cool way to just explore data intuitively without necessarily being able to crunch the numbers. I could look at this real quick and say, okay, most of my traffic comes from the United States, followed by Canada, just by the shades of color. Or okay, something happened on October 7th, I should investigate that. Okay, most of my traffic is coming from direct search. What's going on with my affiliates? Why am I not getting anything from affiliate search? I should invest more in that, right? So it's just about putting charts and graphs together in a way that you can just digest in a simple, easy way. So just some common chart and graph types, just for fun here. So there's 3 chart types that I really personally like that I recommend that you have. The first is a bar chart, and this might be like really going back to high school kind of memory of statistics here, just talking about different chart types. Bar charts are a really common way to identify different groups and separate groups and understand differences between groups. So in this particular chart, right, we're talking about percent of views respondents that are vegetarian or vegan. What is this bar chart good at illustrating? It's good at illustrating there's a huge difference by age amongst people who identify as vegetarian or vegan. So if I told you, oh, I don't know, 8%, 9% of the country is vegetarian, that's one thing. But I could tell you, okay, that's true. Also, a large percent of them are young people, right? That's a different part of information. If I'm a vegetarian vendor of food, I might say, okay, maybe I'm going to start investing in targeting young people more, for example. So bar charts about separating by dimension and understanding differences between groups. Geographic charts are all about understanding geographic data. Pretty intuitive, right? Nothing here is too complicated. But in this chart here, you see that I'm giving an example of the US. But honestly, as a small business owner, talking about geographic data could be super local. It could be by zip code, right? Where are my customers coming? If I'm a small business owner in Orlando, Florida, where are my customers coming from? Where are my website visitors coming from? Are they coming from Orange County? Are they coming from Winter Park? Are they coming from Maitland? Are they coming from Lake Nona, Windermere? That might be useful to know. Maybe I'm thinking about opening a second location and I want to go where my customers are. Or maybe, hey, all my customers are in this pocket. I need to do a better job of marketing better in this pocket. So geographic data doesn't have to be mapped at a county level for the US or for the world, right? Geographic data can just be data being mapped in your own zip code or your own city, your own state, whatever it is, and understanding where the pockets of your best traffic, best sales, whatever it is are, can be really helpful. Last but not least, I'm going to say my favorite of the 3 charts is line charts. This is all about understanding trends over time, right? The line chart is all about understanding what has happened over time, and can we identify changes in the line chart based on events that happened in time, right? And this line chart does a great job of describing that, because you can see they actually labeled what happened at some of the big inflection points in this line chart. So again, it's just about telling stories. Charts, graphs, dashboards, it's storytelling, so you don't have to be like meticulously looking through numbers in a way that's hard to read. It's about identifying trends you wouldn't have seen otherwise. It's about saying, okay, what didn't I know intuitively? What can the numbers tell me in an easy to digest way? So once you have just basic reporting, right? You got some charts, some graphs, you're collecting your numbers. The next thing to do is just, okay, based on the charts and graphs, what trends can I find, right? And one of the ways that you can do it is called segment analysis. And it's basically just a technique used to detect patterns and group whatever you're trying to measure into groups, into quadrants, clusters, whatever you want to call it. And that way you can kind of understand differences between groups. In this little chart here, this is actually a real chart I had with a client in the past who had a call center. And what they realized was they were losing a lot of customers after the customer had to call a call center. So in other words, they knew the call center experience was bad, and they knew that they were losing customers bad from it. They were saying, ugh, what can we do to improve our call center? So we ended up splitting the data in all different ways. We split it based on the location where the call center was located. Was it national? Was it international? We ended up finding that national people who are calling within the United States had better experiences. We looked at what was the issue people were calling about. We looked at who the customers were. In the end, one thing that we found that was huge was the call center representative was critical in not only resolving the call, but how the customer felt about the call. So we ended up finding that the longer that a call center representative worked for that company, the more likely the call was to be resolved, and the more likely the customers to be satisfied and therefore retained and not lose that customer. So just, you can see this is an Excel chart. This is nothing crazy, right? And just looking at, just slicing and dicing the data, we're able to see that trend. So what was our finding? You need to do a better job of retaining your call center staff, because it looks like you're losing a lot of them, and it's really impacting your business. So what did they do? They ended up placing more emphasis on retaining call center staff and training, and putting more programs around retaining them. And as a result, they actually retained more of their customers, increased sales, increased profits. Everybody's happy. So what about you? Maybe you as a small business owner don't own a call center, right? Using our example of small businesses improving their customer funnel, think about the ways that you can segment your customers, measuring your KPIs, your metrics. Split your customers by location. Where are they located? Zip code, neighborhood, city. By demographics, gender, age, household income, tenure. How long have you had that customer? Ordering patterns. Are they a monthly customer? Are they an annual customer? Are they one and done? Lead source. Am I getting that customer from Google? Am I getting it from word of mouth? Am I getting it from Yelp? Am I getting them from social media? Whatever it is, split your customers by these different metrics. See where your sales are coming from. See what your best customers are coming from. Just slice and dice the data. You never know what you're going to find. So within descriptive analytics, where's your data? Where is this data that we're talking about? We're talking about it's on social media, it's on Google. Where can you actually put it together and analyze it? So databases are a place where you store data. If you ever use Microsoft Excel, congratulations, you've worked in a database. Any database where it has columns and rows, and each row represents an individual instance, and the columns are the different descriptors. So, order ID, order location, order price, those are all columns, and each row is an order. That's a database, right? That's a database that you're working on locally on your computer, but it's a database. A couple of the bigger ones that are connected to tools online, so you can put your payment system right in there. You can put your Google data right in there. Amazon Web Services, AWS, and Google Cloud Platform. Those are the two big ones in the industry. They're both pretty cheap. In fact, Google Cloud Platform is free unless you're doing data analysis work on it. So these are actually pretty free to cheap solutions to store your data. And as far as data visualization goes, I showed you a Tableau dashboard. I showed you a Google Data Studio dashboard. The other big one in the marketplace is Power BI, which is owned by Microsoft. These are all just competitors. There's tools that help you visualize your data in charts, in the form of charts and graphs. Okay, that's descriptive. Predictive analytics now. Let's predict the future. Let's forecast future events or outcomes. And then let's talk about regression. So Google Cloud, if I'm talking too much about Google, it's because they are very effective in using data analytics. So the Google Cloud team said a few years ago, they said, we want to predict, the year was 2018. So it's a few years ago. They went to March Madness, which is, for those of you who are not sports lovers, it's college basketball's big playoff that happens in March, 64 team tournament, single elimination. It's always very exciting. And they said, we want to predict a college basketball's team success in real time, better than Vegas, better than anyone else. So they ended up watching one of the games, Michigan versus Loyola Chicago. They said, we're going to predict in real time some of the outcomes of the game. So they predicted at halftime. They said, okay, they watched a half of basketball, and at halftime they said, based on this half of basketball, we're predicting there's going to be 37 3-point attempts in this game and 29 rebounds. What was the actual outcome? 38 3-point attempts, 29 rebounds. If you can predict the future, you can control a lot in your favor. So forecasting is just simply the process of making predictions based on past and present data, right? So it's basically saying, okay, based on what I know about the past, can I forecast the future? There's many different types of forecasting. One is time series, which is based purely off time trends, right? Can I see a line chart over time? Based on that, can I predict the future trend? Moving average is basically saying, based on what's happened recently, can I predict the future? Seasonally adjusted, that's basically saying, okay, like in my business that has better traffic in summer than winter, for example, can I predict, or maybe certain holidays go a certain way for me? Seasonality is basically just saying, are there patterns over time that can be identified and predicted, right? This chart here kind of looks like it's got a seasonality component to it, right? And this, you can see that every year it dips at a certain time and it spikes back up again. That would be seasonality. And then regression based, we'll talk about regression in a second. That's basically saying, let's not base it on the past, let's base it on variables that control the future. We'll get in that in a moment. So just to give an example of how you as a small business can use forecasting, right? The most common use case that I've seen for small businesses is predicting sales so you don't have too much or too little inventory. If you can predict accurately what your sales will be, and you have a physical product, if you're selling a physical product or even a service, because you have to pay labor costs, right? You can ensure that you're not going to be overpaying or in a position where you have not enough inventory to make as much money as you can. That's why forecasting sales is so important. Another example that a small business can use of forecasting is predicting seasonality to maintain proper staffing levels for seasonal businesses. So if you are a seasonal business, maybe you sell something related to Christmas or the holiday season. You want to make sure that every year you have the right number of people there in summer, the right number of people there in winter, the right number of people there in fall, based on that forecasting. So it's important to be able to forecast for staffing reasons and for inventory reasons. See a few comments here. So let's just, Microsoft Azure is another big one as well. Someone mentioned that for the databases. Thank you for adding that. So let's talk about regression now. So regression is possibly the most accurate way to forecast the future. Regression is basically saying, okay, what do I want to predict? I want to predict sales. I want to predict number of new customers. I want to predict whatever it is. What variables drive that? And if I know what those variables will be, can I predict the future? So I like to use the example of Publix. Publix is my favorite grocery store chain. And if you are a fellow Floridian like me, you probably also use Publix. So Publix, whenever they open a new location, they never open a new location without already knowing what their sales are going to be within a certain range of accuracy, right? And how do they do that? They've created a regression formula, which is basically just a math equation. They basically say, based on these variables, we know exactly how much sales we're going to have. So for Publix, for example, they had a really complicated algorithm, but it's summing up these 5 points. They basically have these 5 variables, and with these 5 variables, they can predict the sales of an area with 90+% accuracy. So within a range of confidence, they can say, this is going to be the sales of an area. It's worth it or it's not worth it to open it based on that. So Publix is never opening a location without knowing with certain accuracy, oh, this is going to sell here. They don't take guesses. They don't take chances, right? They're only opening if they have predicted using regression that they're going to be successful. So how does Publix individually open a new location? They have 5 variables. First, they like to know the mean income of the area. Self-explanatory, right? So they have an equation, they pump in the mean income of the region. Number 2 is the population. Number 3 is the population growth. Is the population increasing, declining, at what rate? Number 4 is the median age. So apparently age actually goes into Publix's equation rather. And the last is competitor intensity. What competitors are in the area? They basically have a score for competitors. Using those 5 factors, they basically can say with a very high level of accuracy, this is gonna be our sales here. Great, so there's no margin for error. They're not taking a chance. They're not guessing. They're not, oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? This is a good business decision based on the numbers. And hey, if I knew those 5 things and I could open up a new business in every location with basically 90% confidence of a sales based on that, I'm going to do it. Right? Why would I take a guess? As a small business owner, you're probably not opening that many locations. So how can you use regression? So I had a client who worked in real estate who wanted, they were essentially a real estate agency. They wanted to convert more leads. So we started collecting data about all of the leads to predict traits about whether a lead would close. Okay, so essentially a lead either buys a house or doesn't buy a house, right? So we ended up with about 7 variables that we identified that accounted for more than 80% of the variation in lead close rates. So in other words, I could say with 80% accuracy, any given lead, whether it was going to close or not, based on these 7, if I knew these 7 variables. So some of those variables were lead source. So for this particular customer, they were using Zillow, which is a popular real estate tool. They were using Google. They're using a couple other ones, word of mouth. So lead source was one factor. Time between first contact and second contact. So as it turns out that if they wasted more than 2 days, more than 48 hours after contacting the first contact with that lead, they lost that lead most of the time, right? So that was a fact. If I knew the time between the first and second contact, the lead source, and whether they emailed or talked on the phone as a primary source of communication, whether emailing or talking on the phone, turns out the phone was more valuable. And along with a couple other variables that were more specific to them, I could say with 80% accuracy whether a lead was going to close or not. So if they said to me, Charlie, this lead came from Zillow and there was 72 hours between the first time we talked to them, the second time we talked to them, and we talked to them via the phone and along with a couple other variables, I'd say, okay, based on that, there's a 75% chance you'll close this lead. And how does that help them? Well, one, they can invest more in the leads that are more valuable, the leads that are more likely to close. And also they're going to make changes to their practice based on how they're going to get more leads, more quality closing rates. So for example, if I know that Zillow is the best lead source for them, invest more money in Zillow, less money in Google. If I know that they have to talk to the user within the potential customer within 48 hours or they're going to lose them, they're going to be dang well sure that they're going to contact that first customer within a day or two, the lead rather. And if I say that phone calls are more valuable than emails, okay, stop emailing, start picking up the phone. So they can actually take actions to increase their conversion rate based on the variables that control the conversion rate. So that's kind of the whole point of regression. And then, so predictive analytics uses tools like descriptive analytics does, but in addition, real regression requires coding skill, which you can 100% hire for very, very cheap. It's way cheaper than you'd imagine. And they're usually using coding languages like Python. As a small business owner, you don't need to know that, just be familiar with the word Python. Last but not least, prescriptive analytics. So we don't have too much time to get in prescriptive analytics here. I want to be respectful for everyone's time, but I want to focus on A/B testing because A/B testing is the coolest way that you can use prescriptive analytics right now. And specifically, it's really helpful for your website. A/B testing is pretty straightforward. You have 2 versions of something. Let's say it's your website. Version A maybe has a contact form that says call now. Version B maybe says book an appointment. Everything else on that page is exactly the same. Which version outperforms? Send half the traffic to version A, half your traffic to version B, find out, go with the better version. That's what A/B testing is in a nutshell. May sound silly, intuitive, right? Let's see as a group if we can predict the actual outcome versus the data. And this is why you A/B test. So this is a real example. So WorkZone is a real company. It's a US-based software company that provides product management solutions. So they did 2 A/B tests. The first that you can see the actual test here, the first test is they have a customer testimonial on the side of the form. They both have it on both sides. The only difference is the customer testimonial was more lit up to emphasize Kansas State and Subway worked with WorkZone. Other than that, the form is exactly the same number of questions. Based on that, guys, what do you think? Which version do you think outperformed? You can just take your guess in the comments here. I see left. Anyone else want to take a guess? Left. Anyone else? Left. Okay, so I think the consensus here is the left. Actually, not quite. What if I told you that after running this test for 22 days, WorkZone found that the version on the right actually had a 34% increase in form submissions. And this is a company that's dealing with thousands and thousands of form submissions. So imagine a 34% increase with a 99% statistical significance, which is very high. So, oh, your intuition says that it should be colored. Well, actually, it should have been grayed out. And how would you have ever guessed that, right? That's what A/B testing is all about. A/B testing is a tool that you can use right now for your website, right now for your pricing, for anything, your storefront. Just test. You know, what's the harm of just trying two variations and seeing which one works better than the other? You might have just said, oh, I think it's the colored one. I would take a 34% increase in leads just by changing the color of one graphic, wouldn't you? Let's try one more, just in case you don't believe me. So this is a real form here. And this is a lead gen form on a website. And the only difference between this form was that version A has this sort of trustee certified privacy, basically just a little local, this little graphic saying your data is safe with us. So based on that, left or right, which version do you think outperformed and got more forms submitted? I'm seeing left again, left. Sorry, guys, I guess you're just not intuitive enough. The right, once again, outperformed the left. This time the right had a 13% higher form submission rate. So 13% more people who saw the version B went through and submitted the form than version A. You might be saying to yourself, why is that it? So you might think intuitively, this trustee thing is instilling confidence in the customer. But really, when the actual outcome was, customers ended up thinking, oh no, they're going to ask for my credit card information next. Turns out the actual reason the certified privacy thing was there actually hurt the form. It had the exact opposite effect. That's why you A/B test. You never know. You never know what the data is going to reveal. And of course, there are factors that we might not be considering here, guys, but that's why you A/B test, right? So maybe there's 1,000 factors at play and you as a human just can't process all of them. Let the data speak for itself. You know, after you A/B test, there's other levels of sophistication, right? Think about customization. Think about all the things that you can provide to unique groups based on their needs. So you can apply customization to a lot of different elements. And when I say customization, I mean personalizing the customer experience based on who the customer is, based on common traits within the customer of that customer. So, you know, pricing, for example, maybe you want to customize pricing based on who your customer is. Low income versus high income, for example, or based on location. Maybe if you have two storefronts, one in a rich neighborhood, one in a lower middle income neighborhood, maybe you have a little higher prices in the high income neighborhood. Website landing pages. Maybe you want to have a special landing page for people who found you from Google versus people who found you from your emails. That's the custom experience. Services offered. So there's a company called Loanry. They're a marketing lead generator, and they essentially just do loan lead generation. They found that when they split their target marketing into two groups, high income target marketing and low income target marketing. It ended up increasing their conversion rate by 5%. It went from 7% to 12% overall in terms of conversion rate, just by targeting high income people with different offers, different messaging than low income folks. Marketing campaigns, obviously, maybe you want to target one campaign to service A, one campaign to service B. You never know. Customer retention touch points. If you're about to lose a customer, maybe you treat them differently than a different customer that you're stable with. Just giving each customer a personal experience based on the data. That's all customization is about. And the last data analysis thing I want to talk about, guys, is proactive customer retention. So many of us have returning business and we rely on a returning business. If we lost our returning customers, we wouldn't be able to sustain our business. It's not enough to keep getting new customers. You got to keep your old ones. You got to keep your old ones happy, coming back for more. So there's some really basic data analysis types that I'm not going to get too far into today, like lifetime value calculation and usage curves, we can identify exactly patterns when you might lose a customer and proactively get ahead of it. So if you think you can predict when a customer is going to churn, when you're going to lose a customer, get ahead of it and give them a deal, prevent them from losing them, and you can keep that customer for longer. So going back to Shutterstock, company I used to work for, we found that it's a two-sided marketplace. People are uploading photos and they try to sell them. We found that people after 14 days, if they hadn't sold a photo, they would never come back again. They would just stop uploading images. They would never be a contributor for us. So what do? We basically made it so customers in the first 14 days of their business, their content was boosted in the algorithm so that new contributors would go to the top of search results, so that these new contributors would be encouraged by sales early on and be more likely to be retained. Also, we emailed them around 10 days. So just in case that they were thinking about quitting, we give a little message right before we lose them. Result, they end up having a massive reduction in lost customers. So that's another use case of data analytics. So just some A/B testing tools in case you guys are curious enough. The big ones in the marketplace are Optimizely, which is kind of expensive. Google Optimize is way cheaper. And I mentioned that I'm a co-founder of a company called AnalyticsBox. They basically build websites with A/B testing built in for free. So that's kind of the whole concept of AnalyticsBox. If you're curious about A/B testing for your own website, that might be something you want to check out. So how do we, as Render Analytics, how do we apply data analytics practically every day to customers? We set up their data tracking and dashboards. We create custom insights like the one that I gave you example of the call center. We forecast metrics. We optimize pricing and business practices. We segment and understand customers that are a part of unique subgroups. We, of course, apply that to marketing too. We apply that to Google Ads. We apply that to social media. We apply that to websites. What's the optimum hashtag to use? These are all practical use cases that we use for our customers every day using data analytics. If you're not well versed in data analytics, then you won't have the resources and tools to fully understand your numbers and insights in a way that ensures your business performs as well as it could. That's why you might want to reach out to an agency if you want to get more technical. Guys, there's only a few minutes left. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Please feel free to reach out to me if you just want to have a conversation, pick my brain, maybe get some specific questions answered about maybe your specific business and what you should do for data analytics. But with only a couple minutes left here, I'd love to just sort of look at the chat and open it up for questions. So if I talked really fast, I'm sorry, guys. I had a lot I tried to squeeze in here. Okay. Can I do a lot of this with Microsoft Excel and Power Query? Yes, you certainly can. So, I mentioned one of the first data sources you should use is Excel. Why pay for a database if you're just getting started? In Excel, you can do regression. Regression actually is capable of being done in Excel. You can use pivot charts to sort of slice and dice your data and identify trends. You can even forecast in Excel. So yes, you can absolutely use Excel as a beginner if you're just trying to get started. As you get more sophisticated, Excel has limitations and you don't code in Excel. So it's a good beginning kickoff point. Any other questions? Give me some hard ones, guys. Even if it's specific to your business. Doesn't look like we got any more. Where should I track adult ECL education? I'm not sure I understand your question, Erica. Maybe that's for you, Barry. Okay, is there an index of what KPIs used for marketing? So I'm just going to tell you the common KPIs used for marketing. Impressions, which is number of eyeballs on your marketing effort, even if they don't take any action, like you drive by a billboard, that's an impression. Clicks or interactions, number of people who actually interact with your marketing effort. If you have Google Ad and they click on it, that's a click. If you're on social media and they interact with your social media, that's an interaction. If you have a billboard and they see the billboard and they call your number, that's an interaction. Conversions, how many actually sales you got. And of course, cost per interaction and cost per conversion. Cost per conversion is the most important metric. How much does it cost in marketing to acquire a new customer? That's what it's all about. How do I track who attend a health fair? Well, my question for that would be my follow-up would be how are you collecting in the first place? Do they sign up? If you're signing up, that's how I would start, right? Like what's the signing up data? if it's about like people who actually show up, I would probably have some sort of data collection method at the front door, like a sign up sheet or something. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question or not. Lori, perhaps. All right. How do I use data analytics to locate potential customers on a service-based business as a startup? That's a great question. It's a great question. So I like to start with Google. I know I keep bringing up Google, but it's just such a great tool. I'd like to see where Google searches are happening, right? Like if I don't know what your business is, but let's say your service-based business is a startup. Let's just say you're an electrician, okay? Maybe that's not what you are. I want to know where all the where are people Googling electrician in my area? Parking lot sweeping, okay. Where are people Googling parking lot sweeping my area? Or where are the jobs where parking lot sweeping is located? It's kind of a unique use case because it's more of a commercial B2B. So I'm trying to think, where would parking lot sweeping, like who's your average customer? Is it a big business? I would probably do industry data. I would probably look up where are businesses actually looking for that job. Is it in, Indeed? Is it are they looking on Google? Are they posting on different third-party sites? I think the question you have to answer, you have to figure out for yourself there is, what is the ultimate lead source? Like where are people who are looking for parking lot sweeping jobs, where are they posting? I think that's got to be the question you got to figure out for yourself. Unfortunately, I'm not too familiar with that space, so I can't give you more context than that. But I think that's where you got to start, is figure out where are people looking for that. Is it Google? Is it offline? Is it like Better Business Bureau? That's the question. Just trying to see if there's any other questions here, guys. Tall women clothing. If there's no one searching, how can I find them? Tall clothing is direct, and not a lot of women are shopping based off height because it's a little more challenging. I think what your question is basically saying is like, well, first of all, I guarantee you people are shopping for tall women clothing. That's when I would immediately go to Google, because I mean, if you're someone who's like in a niche market, if you're a customer in a niche market, like maybe instead of tall women clothing, it's some people with large feet, for example, with really large feet. You're probably, as a customer, having a hard time finding the right fit for you. You're probably going to Google to figure out. You're probably saying like, shoes for large feet on Google and figuring out what that is. That's exactly the kind of data I would start with. I would probably experiment with Google Ads and see where that would take you with the data there. Also, social media might be interesting, maybe like Instagram. These are some pretty specific questions. So I hope I'm not being too. I've just worked in I've had a few clothing customers over the years, and I found that Instagram and Google seem to be the breadwinners there. Epiphany. Okay, cool. I think I'll hand it back to you here, Barry. I think that's about it.
Thank you, Charlie. You provided all sorts of exciting and interesting information that I think has stimulated a lot of our attendees to consider how they might use it in their business. So thank you to everyone for attending this evening. We will send out an email asking for some feedback. We appreciate if you would just take a moment to give us that feedback on tonight's session. And I did put a link in the chat box where you'll be able to find the recording. Please don't look for it until sometime tomorrow. It'll take me that long to get it all set up properly. But if you want to see the recording, it will be available through our website. So thank you again, Charlie, and thank you everyone for attending. Good night then.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.